Let me go to Capitol Hill. Garrett Haake. Again, we've got two stories to cover. I'm going to start with the Gordon Sondland testimony because in some ways it would have been the bombshell news of the day on the impeachment inquiry as he is. And it seems as if the White House knew that, which is why they threw Mick Mulvaney out there to almost confirm Gordon Sondland's testimony.
It really was striking. When I read Gordon Sondland's opening statement this morning when it came out, it's online. I would encourage everyone to go read it. I thought that this was the most consequential witness we have seen come forward yet. Sondland connects the dots here, not just to Rudy Giuliani, but to the President of the United States, which I found so striking. The narrative that had been emerging over the last couple days was that Rudy Giuliani was freelancing in Ukraine, doing the president's bidding perhaps, but mainly kind of doing his own thing, bumbling around, getting himself in trouble. Sondland linked this right back to the president, said that it was the president who directed him as an ambassador to work through Rudy Giuliani. Gordon Sondland's testimony, as we're learning from sources in the room, talking to our team, to John Allen, our NBC colleague, a number of other folks coming out. Turns out Gordon Sondland's testimony is like really good for Gordon Sondland. He has been distancing himself from a number of these key decisions, but pointing back towards the president and towards Rudy Giuliani. The Mulvaney press conference was jaw-dropping in a way that I thought my jaw no longer had that kind of flexibility to drop. I mean,
the hinges are gone, dude.
Right. I mean, here you have the president's chief of staff saying, well, of course we traded military aid for political favors, just not those political favors that you're focused on. I mean, he walked absolutely up to the line of what Democrats have said is the single piece of impeachable conduct that got us started here in the first place. And more to the point, as you said in your open, he said this is how we do business. I mean, I think he might as well have printed himself a ticket to be called to testify here in front of these committees as they move forward, because that was as close to an admission as you're going to see. And I'll just end with this. It would be even more surprising if it weren't in a way so expected. This is how we have gotten used to this White House dealing with scandals, by essentially coming out at some point along the scandal timeline and saying, not only is this legal, it's totally fine and normal, and daring Congress or someone else to call them out on it.
Right. Well, it's the same thing they deal with even stories like Rick Perry. They literally lie to us and say it's not true. And literally 2 days later, in the exact way they denied it was happening, is exactly how it's happening. You cannot take anything this White House says at face value on the first time they give it a try. That's what we're sadly learning when dealing on this stuff. Anyway, Garrett Haake, thank you. Let me go to Richard Engel, because speaking of things, we can't take what the vice president said yet at face value. As we're learning more details, we're learning from the Turkish side what they believe they've agreed to. Richard, it doesn't look like the United States negotiated. It looks like the United States went in there begging, and essentially Erdogan said, okay, you got 6 days to clean everything up and then get out.
So what just happened today was the United States gave President Erdogan, the president of Turkey, what he has been asking for years, which is a piece of northern Syria. The U.S. just ceded a piece of northern Syria, where I am right now, the Kurdish homeland, the place where Kurds have lived for generations and beyond, and for the last several years have had an autonomous enclave here that has been safe and stable and pro-American. And President Trump gave it to Erdogan in this deal and said that the Kurds, the Kurdish fighters here, the same Kurdish fighters who've been fighting alongside U.S. troops, have 5 days to drop their weapons and leave. So
drop their weapons. They're expected to disarm.
They just came out.
They're expected to disarm?
They're expected to disarm.
We've allowed that?
Drop to leave. They can take their weapons with them, but if they stay in this area, they have to be unarmed. So they cannot be armed in this area. So drop their weapons and go, or go with the weapons, but get out of this area as an armed force. And that means Turkey will get a piece of this country, and a fairly large piece of this country, but already it's been disputed. The Kurdish leadership just put out a statement saying, well, that's not exactly what we agreed to. We didn't agree to withdraw from the entire area. We just agreed to withdraw from a small portion where the fighting has been the most intense. So within, what are we now, a few hours of this agreement, the Kurds are already saying they didn't agree to what Vice President Pence and Turkey said they agreed to. And that could set up a very, very bad situation, because according to this agreement that was announced in Turkey by Vice President Pence, they have 5 days, the Kurds, to leave as an armed force, and that if they don't do this, the operation will resume once more. Now that President Trump has clearly given his support for this, if this operation does resume in 5 days, it could be even more intense than it has been before, if it even lasts 5 days, frankly.
Do you see evidence that there is a ceasefire right now?
Yes, to a degree. The main conventional assault has slowed, if not stopped. There's been a few reports of some explosions at artillery fire and a few crackles of gunfire along the border area, but I wouldn't say that necessarily means a total collapse of the ceasefire. For right now, they're in a bit of a wait-and-see mode as we go forward. But we have the two sides agreeing to different terms. That Turkey and President Trump and Vice President Pence said there's going to be this safe zone, 20 miles deep, 250 miles long. Actually, Turkey says it's a little bigger than that. And the Kurds don't say that they agreed exactly to that. And there's no mention of what happens to the Russian forces or the Assad forces. So we are setting up a situation for absolute chaos, potentially even civil war here. I think what we're seeing is President Trump using the power of the presidency to shake the world and turn it into some sort
like
of
a snow
globe. And the people who get hurt the most are those who do not really have the position to defend themselves. And in this case, it was the Kurdish people who had their homeland given away tonight by President Trump. And now they're saying, well, that's not exactly what happened. We had to agree to some sort of agreement because we were under fire, but we didn't agree to all of that.
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Beat the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.